Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the new model that we're going to introduce. And so far I've introduced two metal models. The first one is our TCO, which is also known as the Chosen One. Okay, this one I brought out in July of 2020. It's our interpretation of the Anakin model. Then in February this year, 2021, I came out with the Vader model. Okay, this is our interpretation of the Vader model. So if you look at my t-shirt here, this is the first model that I came out with. The Anakin model, then the Vader model, and now I'm introducing the last model here, which is the Luke model. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be our Luke model. Now I want to talk a little bit about the Luke model's design, why we settle on this design. Okay. Now Luke model originally is something like this. This is not an accurate one, but something like this. Okay. So there's a short emitter. Actually the emitter is like this. In the movie it's like this. It's very short and stout. Here is a bit elongated already. Okay. Followed by some ribs. There's a control knob here, and then followed by a palmer. Okay. So the main feature of the Luke is the thin neck. Okay, the thin neck, and then of course the lines here the vertical lines here. So the problem when we decided to do the Luke model, we look at this design, and then the problem with normally this type of thin neck design is that first if you go to a lot of the forums and you look at the complaints, everything, a lot of times this thin neck break because it is not good for heavy dueling, and because it's very small and thin, and therefore a lot of times a lot of the necks break here at the slimmest, the tiniest part here. Why? Because it's very small. Okay. The second problem is, let's say for example this one. This is another thin neck. This is from Saber Forge. Okay. This one the emitter. This is the emitter part here is a bit small. So because it's a bit small, you cannot put the LED because the LED is going to take up so much space already. The LED heat sink. So you got no more space for the blade, you see. So because of that, they move the LED down into the body here. So what it means is that the light now, instead of coming out full, is got to go travel through the small hole here. So because of the small hole, the diameter here is very small. So the surface area is even small. So the surface area here is actually 1/4 only of a full size blade. Now the full size blade normally is 1 inch. So this diameter here is half an inch. So to calculate the surface area, you take the R times square. So since it's half times square, is 1/4. So the light that comes out from the LED is only 1/4 of a normal light that goes through a 1 inch emitter. Therefore, if you put a blade inside here, this model here, this is called the Chosen from the Saber Forge, the light is very dim. That is one of the biggest problem we find with thin neck. When the LED is below the thin neck, the light is very, very dim on here. So obviously we cannot come up with a design that is below this thin neck. The LED has to sit above the thin neck. Okay, but if the LED were to sit above the thin neck, there's no more space for the blade. Even here you see the blade is very little only. See, so only so much. That is less than 1 inch. Is about 0.75 inch. So there's only very little space. So if you put an LED module here in this place here, basically there's no more place for the blade anymore. So that's why some people, when they come up with the thin neck design, what they do is that they make the thin neck very short, just a little bit only, and then they make the emitter very long. So at least if they got a small section here called thin neck, they still call it a thin neck lah, but the proportion actually is all out. So they also have to lengthen the emitter so that there is a place to fit the heatsink. Then on top of that they can put the blade. If you look at carefully at some of the thin neck design, this is what they do. But because of that, the proportion of the thin neck is all run already. Okay, let me give you an example like this one. So here they have to make the emitter longer a little bit, and then what they do is that they compromise. They put a very thin LED heatsink inside here. But this LED heatsink, yes, is thinner, but you still got a very short distance only. But this thing here is a plastic kind of a heatsink. It doesn't conduct heat at all. It doesn't take away any of the heat at all. So even though it's very thin, it is a very bad design because they use a plastic kind of a heatsink inside here. But even then, you see the blade can only go in only so little, even shorter than the other one just now. Why? Because the LED is just right here, so the blade can only go only this much. So these are the two main challenges. The first one is that if you put the LED inside underneath the thin neck, the light is going to be very, very dim. If you put it above the thin neck, then the blade is going to be, the depth is going to be very, very short. Now imagine if you have a blade which is 33 inches or 37 inches, and then the only thing that is holding the whole blade inside this thing is only less than 0.75 inch, less than 1 inch, that's way less than 1 inch, just slightly above half an inch. How stable is it going to be? It's not going to be very stable. There's only a tiny bit which is inserted inside here. Therefore, when we want to do this thin neck, we have to take into consideration these two challenges. Number one, make sure that it doesn't break. Number two, it has to be above the thin neck. And number three, it has to hold the blade long enough so that it is secure. And therefore, actually, because of that, we settled on this MHS thin neck design. It's not as thin as that, but if you look at it, you can still recognize it from far. Okay, this is actually a thin neck, so it still serves its purpose as having a thin neck, although it's not as thin as the original design. Anyway, we do not intend to imitate or copy the original design 100%, because if you look at all my designs, it's all inspired design. We don't copy the original. If you want the original, I think there are a lot of other sellers that sell it, so we only do inspired design. Okay, so this here, the LED design sits inside here. Okay, so this above the thin neck. This is a huge, very, very thick, very big copper for heat dissipation and everything. So this is a very huge piece of heat sink, very efficient. However, it can still fit inside here. And then the blade goes deep inside. So if you look at the blade here, the blade goes so much. This almost 2 inches is 1.75 inches. Compared to the marking, this is how much the blade go in. The other one is only going so much, only so little. Okay, whereas here, the length is so much. So this design here, to me, is much more practical. Okay, whether you use it for dueling or for whatever, is much more stable, and at the same time, the light is very brighter. So it solves that two big problem, the three big problem of the other designs, which is number one, is safer. Number two, it is brighter. Number three, is the depth is deeper, so it is actually safer. So this is how we settle with our Luke design. So this is basically the MHS parts from MHS. This one and this one. This, at least you see the emitter is not as elongated. We do not try to elongate it, so it still gives the appearance of a thin neck, but without having to change the proportion drastically. Okay. Okay, so this is one piece. So the beauty of the MHS design is that if you do not like this emitter here, you can go to TCSS website. You can get yourself another emitter, okay, another design, buy it, and then you put it in, and then it will fit exactly. It will fit no problem. So that allows you the convenience of having swapped different design, and it will still fit. And then there is a neck section here, and then the body section, okay, and then the pommel. Okay, and then this is where the chassis is. The chassis is one piece you pull out. Okay, whether you are using you're getting a stunt model, which means no sound, or the one with the sound models, okay, you still get a chassis as well. Okay, I will explain in more detail for each of the options what kind of a chassis and those kind of things. Okay, last thing I want to point out, what if I want to carry this on my belt? What do I do? Okay, so what we do is that, what I've done is that I've done a tiny little stud here. Tiny little stud. This stud has a hole, and this hole you can actually put on what I do is that I will put on a keychain ring. You can also put a triangle. Okay, you can also put a D ring. It's up to you. But what I'm going to give is a round ring. Okay, so when you want to carry in your belt, what you can do is that you can actually screw this to the end, to the pommel there. Okay, there's a place for you to screw in. Okay, and then you can use a carabiner or use a belt hook, whatever, and then hook it to your pants. Okay. If you do not like the round design, you can take this off. This is just a keychain. You can just take it off, put in your own thing. Now, of course, if you have any design which has got a ring, there will bound to be some sound. So if you do not like the sound, you can always take it off. Just turn it off and keep it. The other thing is, if you do not like to put this, you can also tie a tassel. You know, some people got this long tassel with maybe some beads, and then a tassel at the end. So there's also another thing that you can do with the hole here. So you can have this, and then you can tie a long tassel for decoration purposes. Okay, so that is the design philosophy that we have behind this, our Luke model. Okay.